So we have a little bit of breaking news. It turns out the Washington Post has reported that two business associates of President Trump's personal lawyer, that's Rudy Giuliani, have been arrested. What is going on? So now it's not related to the Ukraine investigation, which is leading to which has spurred an impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump. This is related actually to a case in the Southern District of New York, but it does involve Ukraine. So let me get to the details here. Now, first, who are these guys? Well, these are Rudy Giuliani's henchmen. Their names are Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman. Igor. And they've been charged with campaign finance violations. Because of course they are. Campaign finance violations. So let me get into the details of this. Now, according to the indictment in the Southern District of New York, Parnas, Fruman, and other defendants uh, conspired to circumvent federal laws against foreign influence by engaging in a scheme to funnel foreign money to candidates for federal and state office so that the defendants could buy potential influence with the candidates' campaigns and the candidates' governments. If that does not make the case of getting all money out of politics, I don't know what does. And that's just an aside here. Okay, so now the indictment alleges that Fruman and Parnas schemed to donate money to former Republican Congressman Pete Sessions. Now, originally, when the story had come out, we didn't know who this congressman was. It's a mystery congressman, right? So Pete Sessions is who they tried to give money to, and they did give money to him. And it was also revealed that they gave thousands of dollars to current minority Republican leader Kevin McCarthy. Now, at the same time, they were asking Sessions to get the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine removed from her job. I guess that had something to do with Ukrainian corruption, of course. Now, in the spring of 2018, Parnas met with the congressman, with Sessions, seeking his assistance in causing the U.S. government to remove or recall the then U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. Parnas' efforts to remove the ambassador were conducted, at least in part, at the request of one or more Ukrainian government officials. Prosecutors say Parnas and Fruman also began scheming in March of 2018 to advance their personal financial interests and the political interests of at least one Ukrainian government official with whom that they were working. And of course, in order to advance that, they made giant contributions. First, they made a $325,000 contribution to an independent expenditure committee. That's dark money. That's money that we cannot trace. And a $15,000 donation to a second such committee, according to the indictment. So already massive, massive. So now these two, they're not the only ones involved. As I mentioned, of course, Pete Sessions was the guy that they were trying to bribe. And of course, Kevin McCarthy, who also received a lot of money, but I don't know if they're specifically involved in trying to remove this Ukrainian ambassador. So we'll see as the details develop in this story. But there is another person involved, and that's David Correia. Now, he's a business partner of Parnas and Fruman, who would work with them on a liquefied natural gas company that they incorporated in 2018. Now, you're not going to be surprised to find out that they wanted to explore LNG prospects in Ukraine. Shocker. Shocker. Now, Parnas, and here's the thing, too. So these guys weren't just friends and business partners of Rudy Giuliani, and you're going to see how they're connected later. But there are also gigantic Trump donors. In fact, Parnas himself wasn't really involved in politics, hadn't really been a donor before until 2016, when he made a $50,000 donation to the Trump Victory Fund. That's a joint fundraising committee for the Republican National Committee, the Trump campaign, and GOP state parties, according to campaign finance records. Now, Parnas had described himself as a, quote, passionate supporter of Trump's candidacy. No, you know what he probably saw? Guy who's super corrupt that he can buy off. Mm. So now, more information about the timeline of what happened, right? So in May of 2018, this was 6 months before the men began working with Giuliani on the Biden investigation. And that's how both Biden and Giuliani tie into these folks. A Florida business established by Parnas had received a $1.26 million wire transfer from an account whose owners was represented by a real estate lawyer who specializes in assisting foreign buyers of U.S. property, court documents, and corporate filings show. It's all from the Washington Post. 2 days later, America First, the main pro Trump super PAC, reported receiving $325,000 from a company Parnas and Fruman had incorporated the previous month called Global Energy Producers. So they get all this money, just over $1 million. And they get it from this person who assists people who come in from, out of the country and buy up U.S. property. You know what that looks like to me? Money laundering. And that money, $325,000 of it, just happens to find its way into Donald Trump's hands, into his campaign. Oops. What is going on here? Like, nothing suspicious about that, MAGA guys will say. No, you wanted to find corruption in Ukraine. You found it. You found it. These guys were working for a Ukrainian politician or several government officials who we don't know who they are yet, was pushing for the U.S. ambassador to get fired and, of course, tried to bribe U.S. Congress people, Kevin McCarthy and Pete Sessions, into helping remove the ambassador that apparently certain Ukrainian officials did not like. Well, then, total and complete corruption. So now there's a few questions here, right? Now, one of the questions that I had before we found out who the congressman was Pete Sessions, right? But there's more questions about how much he knew, what was his role, did he take the bribes, and then do exactly what he, what the Ukrainian politicians wanted them to do. I'm not quite sure about that. What was the Ukrainian official that they were working with? Who was that? Was there anything promised? Was there quid pro quo? We know that these people were pursuing opportunities in Ukraine for LNG, right? More importantly, since late 2018, they were assisting Giuliani's investigation or push to get Ukrainian officials to investigate former President Joe Biden. So does Donald Trump know any about this? And again, how much does Giuliani know? Was he actually involved in this? And we need to know the answers. The House does need, and again, this is only for the Southern District of New York, but since it involves so much of what the impeachment inquiry seems to be about, the House would be really smart to start subpoenaing Giuliani to see what he knows. And look, I already know what Giuliani is going to do. He's going to say, no, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to talk in front of Congress. Screw that. I'm not interested. Well, you know what you do if you're in Nancy Pelosi's shoes? You get the sergeant at arms. You say, this is not a request, Rudy. You're going to come here either voluntarily or we're going to drag you here and throw you in that little jail we have in the Congress building. Lock him up. Lock him up. Again, if he doesn't talk. Now, look, if he's not involved, well, then he's got nothing to hide, right? That's the logic that Republicans always seem to use. So I guess we're going to use that logic as well. Giuliani, if you got nothing to hide, then maybe you should come to talk to Congress about what you know about your business partners. Also, henchmen. And if he doesn't know anything, fine. But I think, in my personal opinion, and this is just based on my speculation alone, so take that, with a grain of salt, but I think it's inconceivable that he doesn't know what his business partners, the people that are helping him investigate so-called corruption in Ukraine that is tied to all these Ukrainian figures and wanted to do natural gas exploration and business inside of Ukraine, had nothing, like Giuliani knew nothing about what they were doing. Inconceivable. But the only way to find out is to get him in front of Congress and get him to do sworn testimony. And either they trip him up on a lie or he admits the truth. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.